So unfortunately, it's more bad news in the layoff front in the industry, but it's a little bit of some clarity, if you will, is the main reason that I bring this up, because I don't really like dwelling on bad news. But we had talked about how Microsoft had a lot of layoffs at Activision and Blizzard. They were laying off about 1,900 people. And then today, or this week, I should say, the week of our recording this show, they announced more layoffs at Blizzard. Or not really announced, but more people started coming out and saying, hey, I just got laid off kind of thing. And it seemed like it was a new round of layoffs. That doesn't appear to be actually the case. This is still all part of the original 1,900 number. But what it is this was a huge layoff in the area of the eSports side. Activision and Blizzard was very heavy in eSports. They had the Call of Duty League. They had Overwatch League, which obviously kind of went defunct. But then they had just had a video with Zoe that was hosting it, talking about the new direction that they're going to go with Overwatch esports. Now it's apparent that they're going to be hosting these things more locally and having kind of just kind of being like the overall, like, hey, we do Overwatch and we're kind of involved with these, but we're not really running the show anymore. So I kind of understand from that aspect. But the fact that they would have like Zoe be there being like the host of that event and then let her go, which she's like the face of Overwatch League. And then all of the different shoutcasters like Matt Morello and I think UberX and just all these people that were like, well, but why are you doing all these? And then in fact, on the Call of Duty League front, which I haven't had enough time to really dig into this, but they literally last weekend just had a big major event of Call of Duty League, where it was like a weekend where they had like a little mini tournament kind of thing, if you will. And then once, I think it's Monday when that's done, they let everybody go. It's like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I understand, cost cutting, and I understand all these kinds of things, and whether I agree with it or not, I understand if having a round of layoffs and everything, but this just seemed particularly egregious to do things this way when in theory you're setting things back up and you even brought some of those people out. I mean, I guess you could make the argument, well, at that point, they were still on the payroll, like with Zoe, but it's like, I just don't understand why they would go this route.
It seemed so odd for them to kind of, like you were saying, Chris, say, Overwatch League is coming back in a different form, and then get rid of, and I understand, well, there aren't going to be weekly, and all I could think was, I hope they hire her to contract her out to stream it, and I hope she charges a heck of a lot of money, right? Because I'm like, man, the first thing I thought of was all of those stories you hear of people who went on to great success, and they all have that story of, hey, this is the time I got fired when Walt Disney was told he couldn't draw, or no imagine, things like that. I'm like, when you get rid of someone like Zoe, who is the top of her game, that's you should have found something for her to do there. Maybe she didn't, you couldn't, afford to keep her on as a full-time caster, but man, getting rid of her was a mistake.
And I do like, and not to say that when the first rounds of this batch of layoffs was happening, this kinds of stuff may have been happening as well. So I don't mean to throw any of those people under the bus necessarily. But one thing that I did particularly like, at least as this unfortunate news is coming out, is people like Zoe and Matt and a couple of people complaining and saying like, this is wrong, whatever. But I really liked it that you could tell it almost makes it that much more of like a dagger to the heart kind of thing. But they were all like, I'm not mad that this happened. I'm glad I was a part of something, and I was glad I got to do it. And and it's just like, man, if nothing else, that should show you that you're getting rid of the salt of the earth here. It's like how much of a mistake you're making. It made me wonder. I hope somebody who is responsible for this is like, man, did we do the right thing? Because you didn't. Because it's going to come back and bite you. It is, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and I think overall, when you have an acquisition like this is bound to happen. There's no way everybody between these two companies is all going to stay and hold their jobs. And, there's going to be a lot of shifting, and I'm sure it will continue. This is probably not the last time. I'm hoping it's not a ton more layoffs, but there's going to be some serious restructuring anyway, because everybody's trying to figure out what everybody's place is and where to go. And I totally get that. It's just like picking the right people that need to versus maybe people who have been OGs and have been around for so long. Don't you think those need to kind of stick around a little bit more to kind of guide and to kind of help out?
But it also
that just
feels
comes with this.
It also feels like, speaking as a person who fancies themselves very pro-capitalism, I'm a pro-capitalism guy. And well. I understand a lot of the negative aspects and things like this that can happen and whatnot, but it's like, okay, let's just optically look at this, Microsoft. You go through this huge battle to spend $69 billion for Activision Blizzard. And seemingly almost immediately when that deal goes through, you have a massive round of layoffs. And yes, there's synergistic stuff that needs to be done, and there's probably a lot of duplication of jobs. And yes, it's inevitable, as you said, whenever there's a merger or there's an acquisition, things like this do happen. But this is pretty big, and it just feels like how. I don't know when, all of their shareholder stuff is. I know that they just recently had some reporting of different things, maybe the most recent quarter. I don't know when their fiscal year ends.
Yeah, Microsoft earnings, I think, is coming out. It just
feels like you go out and you tout all these great things that you just did. You're a $3 trillion company, and then just the optics of this. I just don't understand. Like, why couldn't you wait 6 months, or why couldn't you slowly do this? Or, I mean, I understand there might be a bit of a rip the Band-Aid off and be done with it kind of thing, but it's just like, I can't help but think of all those people who were like believing that like Microsoft's going to fix Activision and all their problems. And then your way of fixing it is getting rid of not just a couple of the top guys that were problematic, but a bunch of other people who probably didn't have issue. It just, the optics of it just seems so bad. I don't see how they can come out of this and not think you're burning all the goodwill you just had.
That's right.
I don't know. That's how it feels to me.
I don't understand, and just kind of like just jumping on to what you're saying, Chris, is, and again, nothing against someone, like if you were in human resources and you lost your job, that is horrible, and I feel bad for you. But like Tim was saying, maybe they already had someone at Microsoft that was in human resources.
Right. Yeah,
but what really killed me is seeing how many artists who worked on environments and created these maps. I'm like, you didn't already have somebody at Microsoft doing that. Right. All of these artists that lost their job that seemingly were doing things that nobody else was doing. I just, and not only at Blizzard, I feel like just the way that the gaming has been trending, I can't imagine that there isn't anyone working in gaming anywhere that isn't nervous, because everyone's been laying off everybody. And how in the world, if you're in this industry, you got to be looking over your shoulder right now. It's just insane.
And there's always been like a little bit of an element of that. Right. I agree with you. It feels like even more so. Most people like us in a commentary standpoint thought like 2023 was like the rough year, and then it's going to even out and maybe go bounce back up. The ball's going to start bouncing back upwards, but it just feels like it's just continuing. Yeah. There was no cutoff.
But as always, with this, there is a silver lining. These people may come out of the woodworks and come up with something great. And it may not be immediate, but there might be new companies that start, new gaming developers, like all these people that get laid off. They'll get back on their feet, and you can only hope that they do something amazing and come back. And so it's obviously it stinks right now, but give it a couple of years and we might be singing their praises over a game that they helped develop. Whatever. I don't know. It's so, I feel like it bounces from one place to the next, or somebody's like, forget it, I'll just start my own thing, and they go from there. And I love that. It just stinks when people have to constantly have to be let go and then shift. And it's just weird.
I really hated the way it went down. It wasn't like everybody got to work to an email that said, you've been let go. It was we're letting this many people go, and people went a day not knowing if it was them or not. And, you hear all these stories of people that were, I was in Slack typing my contact information to send to people, and all of a sudden my Slack account was cut off, and just. Yeah,
that's shady.
Like
I don't
stories
like that
of so many people that, it could be me. I guess I've got to go back up my stuff for my resume. I don't have access now. You know,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
I hated that it went down. Like
I hate
that.
the cutoff. Yeah, that immediate cutoff. It's like give them give at least they've worked for you for this long. Give them a day to collect whatever they need to collect.
Yeah,
And I get that, like, you know, that's why you sign NDAs and that's why you do. And I'm sure they're so nervous about people just taking stuff. But on a personal level, give me my resume. Give me at least the things that I know I can take with me. Don't just cut me right off. I hate that too. I think it's so terrible, and unfortunately, it happens all the time.
I do slightly understand that. I mean, I agree that there should still be some avenue of like, hey, let the person have some type of access to give proof of the work that they've been able to do, kind of thing like that.
Right.
But I do somewhat understand like, shoot, we're having mass layoffs. If a person knows or even
cut the cord.
Thinks that their time's coming, what if they start sabotaging something? Or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
exactly. In this day and age, I guess you never really know. But fortunately, the time that I had been laid off, I had access. They were really good about like, look, I did have to leave relatively quickly that day, but like they made sure I got access to all the things I needed to be able to create whatever I need to show proof of what I've done the last 14 years, kind of thing. So I was very thankful for that. But so I agree, there needs to be some give and take there with that.
Yep.